Station to nowhere. Docking clearance. The stars above Draxis Station blinked like tired eyes. It hung in space like a bruise, stitched together with industrial scaffolding, old antenna arrays, and cheap repair foam. From a distance, it looked like a rusted spanner floating in a bucket of oil. Up close, it smelled worse. Solivagus cut his engines and drifted toward Docking Bay 6. No weapons drawn, no shields raised, just the lazy swing of a ship that had seen too many battles and not enough maintenance. The wretched light coughed into alignment, retro thrusters firing in short, cranky bursts as the clamps locked onto the hull with a satisfying clunk. He exhaled through his nose, the tension in his shoulders loosening slightly. Just a pit stop, nothing more. Some fuel, some food, maybe a hot drink that didn't taste like recycled radiator fluid. And if the station's bar had something with spice and real meat in it, even better. He rose from the pilot's chair, adjusted his coat, and holstered his sidearm out of habit. Just another station, just another shadow port. He didn't notice the subtle delay in the docking clamp report, or that someone was already watching his arrival. The Welcome Committee. The corridors of Draxis Station always felt too close. Not because they were cramped, but because they were soaked in history, most of it bad. Scorched patches from old blaster fights, rust creeping like ivy through seams in the metal, and the occasional flicker of old maintenance droids that had long since given up pretending they worked. Solivagus moved through the passageways with the gait of someone who expected trouble, but wasn't particularly worried if it came. He followed the scent of hot oil and overcooked protein toward the common concourse. Scott's bar wasn't the worst hole he'd ever walked into, but it made a convincing argument. Sticky floors, flickering lights, a barman with more tattoos than teeth. The drinks were cheap, and the clientele cheaper. Solivagus liked it already. He slid into a booth near the back where he could keep an eye on both exits. Ordered something brown and steaming. The bartender handed it over with a nod and didn't ask questions. He sipped. It tasted like spiced engine coolant, but in a good way. That's when he saw them. 3 figures by the bar. They weren't locals. Too clean. Too still. One of them looked like he'd never sat in a bar that didn't have a linen napkin before. They weren't looking at him, but they were definitely not looking at him. He let them stew, sipped his drink, waited. They approached 5 minutes later, like they were trying to time it just right. The leader, tall shaved head, sharp coat, stood opposite the booth. "Solivagus," the man said. He didn't respond. "You let Rhys Talven go. That was a mistake." Solivagus looked at his drink like it might have something useful to say. It didn't. "Got a message from Korin Vale," the man continued. "He sends his regards." 3 things happened very quickly. 1. The man reached for a concealed weapon. 2. Solivagus kicked the table up and into his chest. 3. The bar exploded into violence. Blaster fire sizzled through old air. Bottles shattered. Someone screamed. Someone else laughed. Solivagus rolled to the side, came up with his sidearm already spitting fire. The clean-cut thug dropped. The second one ducked and ran for cover. The third tried to flank. Solivagus kicked over a chair, vaulted the bar, and grabbed a bottle from the shelf as he slid into cover. "Scott," he shouted over the din, "if this place had insurance, now would be a good time to cash out." The bartender ducked behind a crate and shouted something impolite. A blaster bolt scorched past Solivagus' ear. He leaned out and fired. Missed. "Not my day," he muttered. Retreat and rethink. 10 minutes later, the bar was a mess. 3 men were unconscious, and Solivagus' coat had a new hole in it. He stepped over the groaning body of the last attacker and grabbed a comm from the man's belt. Scanned it. Nothing useful. Just a single line order. Terminate Solivagus. No witnesses. So much for subtlety. He left credits on the bar out of principle more than guilt and slipped into the maintenance tunnels behind the service lift. He needed a plan, or at least a head start. Draxis wasn't a station you ran through. It was a station you got lost in, and Solivagus knew the shadows better than most. He moved fast, boots silent on grating, passed through old quarters, abandoned repair bays, the remnants of shops long since ransacked. Eventually, he reached an old hangar, long sealed. Inside were scrap piles and forgotten vessels. One of them was a skiff. It looked barely operational, but it would fly. He climbed aboard, hot-wired the console, and coaxed the old bird to life. Time to go. As the hangar doors opened with a tortured groan, Solivagus caught sight of another figure on a nearby platform. Someone watching. He didn't stick around to ask who. The skiff slipped into the black, and the station shrank behind him. Another day. Another job. Another warning unheeded. He keyed coordinates for a long orbit out past the comm relays. He'd eat in peace, patch the coat, clean his weapon. Then he'd find Korin Vale, because this time it was personal.
Now, that is the end for this one. Make sure you come back for more, and like and subscribe. See you soon.